So, all right, great. All right, welcome again to everyone. I want to also take the opportunity to especially welcome Mrs. Benita Morrison, who is sharing with us in our conversation tonight on this topic. And I'll introduce her a little bit more in a little bit, but just to share the topic that we are looking at this evening. The topic, woman, burden bearer. Are they bearing too much? Are they, and I know we have, representative, women here, who are doing that multitasking thing, doing the family thing, doing the work thing, and then of course, in some cases also doing the church thing. So there is at least a perceived issue. We will try to find out if it is really an issue, yes or no, in our conversation this evening. I want to remind everyone that the conversation is recorded and will be available on our website, as well as our Facebook and YouTube platforms for additional viewing. I know that there are persons who have clashes on a Tuesday, whether their Bible study start at this time, etc. And so we want to make it clear that the recording will be available to us. The fact of the week, taken from a study that was done out of Amsterdam, I believe. And this clause says that, one study finds that the man and the woman should share the housework. In this country, because they, really are looking at ways to improve the quality of life of the women in their country. And this is one of those, one of those uptown countries, let's put it that way. Women, so their finding is that women, the man and the woman should share the housework. Women in such a situation report less fatigue and psychological distress. And I'll give a little bit more background to what that study has come up with for their country as we look at this issue. As usual, what we try to do is to give anybody the opportunity just to introduce themselves by just sharing your name, where you work or where you worship, if any of those apply. And so that you, and just to, by way of making you feel free to share in the conversation as if you're not a stranger. We don't want any stranger here. We're trying to create a safe space where people can feel free to share without having your view or your opinion discredited or discounted. We want to validate your thoughts. So I'm going to start with you, Lady Michelle. Let's go right ahead.
Evening, everybody. I am Sister Michelle, and I worship at Agape Missional Christian Church.
Right.
And
yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry to break you. I didn't mean to do that. You're finished, Lady Michelle.
Yes, Rev, I'm finished. I'm finished.
All right. Lady Sherian, I see you.
Good night, everyone. I'm Sherian, and I'm from Emmanuel Apostolic Church.
Okay. All right, Sherian. Sir Andrew.
Good evening, everyone. Andrew Barnett from Faith Apostolic Ministries.
Lady Shan. Let me see if you're hearing me.
Yes, I am finally here. Good evening, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Chantal Young, currently worshiping with Agape.
Okay. I see some names or some markers that I do not recognize. But if you are comfortable and you want to share your name, where you work, or if you're working at all, where you're churching, if you're churching at all, or just your name, feel free to do so now. If not, we will just go right into our conversation. Going once, going twice. Okay. All right. So as I said, the conversation topic tonight, woman burden bearer, are they bearing too much? And this is continuing in our series for the month of August, looking at gender-related issues. Last week, of course, we tried to look at defining what masculinity is, and the weeks before we looked at additional issues which kind of all bear down on this particular one. You know, if the men are absent from the home and the family, men are absent from the church, you know, women are, you know, their roles are changing, they're taking on additional roles. Men have somehow been disconnected from their identity. It does seem logical that the women are carrying more than their fair share. And of course, this does not affect society, but of course also impacts on discipleship. It impacts on the church, and you know what, you know, the model, you know, and the ways that our women are able to cope even in church life. This study that was done again out of Amsterdam, you know, they found that when men and women carry in particular the household, you know, the domestic work, as you know, the women fare better than the household where the men are even present, but it just because by default, you know, there are certain, the role of the women in the home remains the same in terms of taking care of the home and being the caregiver. In addition to their professional careers, you know, these women struggle a little bit more. So that's what that study seemed to have found. And we want to see if that's based on your contribution, your experience, if indeed this is the case. And we want to also get Mrs. Morrison's feedback. So the first thing that I want to do is to receive Mrs. Morrison's feedback on this issue. So let me see if I can set her up a little bit. I'm going to stop sharing. And while you connect your presentation, Mrs. Morrison, I'm just going to introduce you. I reached out to Family Life Ministries, to invite a counselor to be with us for this conversation. And so based on that, we have welcoming in our conversation this evening, Mrs. Benita Morrison, who is a Christian herself from the Marvelly Gospel Hall Brethren Church. She does have a Master of Arts degree in Counseling Psychology from CGST. And she has a BSc in Management Studies and an MBA from UWI. So, she does come, comfortably able to share with us in our conversation. And she also herself has a family, has been married for over 50 years to Mr. Dennis Morrison. And, of course, she has children of her own, and 3 son-in-laws and 4 grandchildren, and we want to hear how she managed. I'm pretty sure that she probably also had to carry the burden probably in a little bit more than usual way, or maybe. So Mrs. Morrison, please share your thoughts on our topic this evening.
Thank you so much, Pastor Smith, for your very, very warm welcome. I hope you are hearing me well.
Yes, we are hearing you loud and clear.
Great. All right, so what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be doing a presentation. And in that presentation, I am hoping some of the responses to what you have said will come out.
Okay.
Definitely, I do agree with what you have said, that when the men are a part of dealing with the housework, it makes life so much better for
Yes.
the women. But let's go through this, and then we will see how that triggers the rest of the conversation.
Okay.
So I want to begin by even asking the question, are women really burden bearers? Because we have made a statement and it may or may not be true.
Okay.
But I'm going to be looking at where it all started. No, the Jewish society has always been patriarchal, oriented towards the male as the principal spiritual burden bearer. And that is a statement that was made in a book called The Hidden Power of a Woman by Mahesh Shabda. Adam, the first man, was not deceived, but knew what he was doing when Eve brought him the forbidden fruit, and he ate, knowing of his sin. Thus, the man became the principal burden bearer for the sin of the first family. But this obligation became privilege, exclusive of woman. Unable to save himself, the burden bearer Adam needed a savior to redeem the family from sin and from the curse. Christ came, the firstborn, the son, the burden bearer, according to Isaiah, having prepared a body for himself in which he would bear the burden of sin and redeem the creation of God. The patriarchy of Judaism and their religious practices over time solidified the diminishing role and influence of women on society. Women became second-class citizens, looked upon as having an inferior nature, prone to sin, deception, moral weakness, and a tendency to influence others to sin, all because of what took place in the Garden of Eden until Jesus came. Jesus, however, came to make a difference and treated women as the mental and spiritual equals of men and welcomed them into the ranks of his disciples. And we remember how Jesus dealt with women. He spoke kindly to the woman at the well. He addressed the men, he addressed the people in the gathering when they brought a woman caught in adultery. And that story over years have always had me asking a question. How do you catch a woman in adultery? What happened to the man? But Jesus reached out in compassion to the woman. He spoke with Mary and Martha. The women were at the cross, at the tomb. The women were the first ones that brought the message. So Jesus came with a difference. Even so, the burdens of women continue. What can I say? So, one viewpoint, Amy Jakes Garvey in her book says, Negro women are the acknowledged burden bearers of their race. Now, whether this is due to, one, the innate laziness of Negro men, and a lot of that has been found. You can tell me if you agree or you don't. Or whether it's their lack of appreciation for their noble women. We're not quite sure, but it has been acknowledged. Negro women are the acknowledged burden bearers. Now we're talking about lack of appreciation for their women. And I just want to make reference to situations that I know about, that I've come upon. Women will prepare meals. Men eat without expressing thanks. They just push the food down their throat. No appreciation to say, thank you for what you did for me. And just yesterday, I was speaking to someone and she gave me an example. She and her husband planned to wake up early to go for a walk. They overslept. They have children who need to go to school. So she said, let's jump in and start doing the breakfast because time is gone. He got upset, but we said we were going to walk. So he was setting his mind to go and walk, disregarding the fact that there is other work to be done. How is this going to be managed? Right? So we're talking about lack of appreciation for the women. And as I said, maybe both of these reasons are contributing factors, yet the results are the same: an overburdened womanhood and a backward race. But I want to just encourage women that she should be careful in keeping pace with daily events, training her mind to cope with the situations and the problems. No. Gender analyses frequently highlight triple burdens on women in everyday life. And I want us to just look at the triple burden. This triple burden is a major barrier to women's economic empowerment. These are: 1, reproductive work; 2, productive work and community work. So what is reproductive work? Reproductive work, as I have here, involves childbearing, cooking, cleaning, caring for the family, including children, sick or elderly, health-related work. Productive work is associated with paid labor in which goods are produced and services provided. And then community work includes activities primarily undertaken by women at the community level and is often voluntary. And under community work, and Pastor alluded to that, comes church involvement. According to the International Women's Development Agency, in all countries, women and girls do the bulk of unpaid care work. On average, women spend twice as much time on household work as men and 4 times as much time on childcare. Women also work longer hours than men overall when both paid and unpaid work is taken into account. Carolyn Moser have shown that across many countries and cultures, it is most often women who carry the heaviest of these burdens. This gender division of labor perpetuates women's subordination and prevents them from realizing their full potential and enjoying their human rights. Let's look a little bit more at reproductive work. Eve is known as the mother of our living in Genesis 3:20. Women are the ones who physically give birth, and of course that comes with its own set of challenges, pain, etc. So we place the heavy burden of reproductive responsibility on the shoulders of women. Women have to be concerned about birth control, to maternity care, to raising a child. Men don't care about birth control. They don't have to have children. So women are the ones, psychologically, emotionally. So women are the automatic default for carrying this mental load, this emotional burden. Men might say, I am not the one to get pregnant, so why should I worry about reproduction? So women are the primary caretakers of children and elders in every country of the world. International studies demonstrate that when the economy and political organization of a society change, women take the lead in helping the family to adjust, right? So these are the kinds of things that women have to be doing. Now, women primarily perform reproductive work. So apart from the fact that this is one of the things that women do, primarily it's women who do it. And in many societies, it is not considered as real work. Can I tell you? So you're looking after the household, you're raising children, you're caring for others around you, but it's not real work. You're washing and cooking and cleaning. And I reflect also on somebody else that I'm familiar with. So they both went somewhere together and they were asked a gentleman, what do you do? And he reels off whatever he does in business. The wife is a homemaker. What does the wife do? He answers, she no work, she no work, she no do nothing. And can I tell you, she washes and she cooks and she cleans. And when he comes home, he gets a big dinner. She even goes as far as she's the person who cuts the lawn. But she don't work, remember. So please know that reproductive work is time consuming, demanding, and tedious, but it's not work. And as I said, it is naturally considered to be women's work. Naturally, just by virtue of how the society flows. Another very important thing that I want you to know is that domestic work has no clear demarcations between work and leisure. It doesn't have a beginning and it doesn't have an end. And in many societies, women tend to work longer hours than men. So a critical issue concerning reproductive work is the lack of recognition of the economic cost, which has resulted in this kind of work being undervalued, unpaid, and it can be very invisible. So guess what? The woman is taken up doing this, but she's not working. And even when women go out to work, and we say a little bit more about the productive side, women's work is not limited to the workplace. Back at home, more work awaits her. So for a woman, to a large extent, home is not a place for rest. It's a place where she has to do caring labor without being paid. And it's the view of many that household chores and caring labor are women's jobs. But this person says it is not. It cannot be the woman's duty. And Pastor started out by saying, when the men participate in household chores, it makes a very big difference to how the woman responds. Let's look a little bit now at productive work. It has been found that women have a tougher time finding jobs than men. And when women are employed, they tend to work in low quality jobs, in vulnerable conditions, and there is little improvement forecast in the near future. And even when women occupy higher level positions, they are not as recognized as men. The current global labor force participation rate for women is close to 49%. For men, it's 75%. Labor force in Jamaica for women was reported at 46% in 2020. The point is, women have a difficult time getting a job. Women work less in the work out there. And when they do, it's the nature of the job. So women are more affected by economic crisis because they tend to earn less, they have fewer savings, and they are disproportionately more in the informal economy. So because they're in the informal economy, when anything happens, they are the first ones to be affected, right? And I hope you agree with me. Oh, and by the way, I should say, maybe you should be putting some of your questions in the chat Pastor Smith, you will deal with that
Sure.
as we come to that part. So when anything happens, women have to drop out of the labor force easier, quicker, right? And they also make up the majority of single parent households. Since COVID-19, women's employment is likely to be affected more severely than that of men, just by virtue of how things work, right? Women also may be homeschooling children, caregiving for parents or loved ones, or having to find childcare. And because of that, it makes it more difficult for them, even as they try to do productive work. Before I go to community work, let me say a little bit more about the productive work. More women than men are employed as nurses, social workers, or teachers, and are working with population that presents an increased exposure to disease, including COVID-19. Many women are frontline health workers, and they have lost their support in the provision of reproductive work involving care for their children and elderly relatives. Disasters, when disasters come, like COVID-19, it magnifies the kind of inequality that is there for women. So women's reproductive burdens have been perpetuated, reinforced, and increased in the context of disease. So we recognize the nature of the burden that women carry just by virtue of the type of work that they do. Now let's say something about community work. Women are members of community development organizations such as Outreach Program, Parent Teachers Association, cultural societies. Women are the ones that get more involved in these things and end up contributing a lot to the community. Of course, women tend to be involved in church programs even more than men. And a lot of these church programs impact the communities. If you want volunteers to work at church on almost any and everything, it's the women. And we who are church people know that church work can be very demanding, takes a lot of time, and is generally non-paying. So it's voluntary work. So community work tends to be voluntary. Now, having seen that women bear reproductive burdens, productive burdens, community burdens, I am suggesting that it is very important that we bear each other's burdens. Women continue to bear a heavier burden when it comes to balancing work and family. And even though there have been improvement and focus on gender equality over time, it still continues, right? And it is important that we are aware of this. But as I say, we are encouraged to bear each other's burdens, and that's scriptural. Galatians 6 verse 2 says, bear each other's burden, and so fulfill the law of Christ. And I am going to say, men, how can we help? Men, how can we help to bear the kind of burden that the woman is carrying? And this is a simple picture of a man helping to pull somebody up. How can we as men pull up our women, right? And this other one says, come to me, all who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. That's what the Lord said. So how can we help? One of the things that come to me is that we should make sure that the women get credit that they deserve and look for opportunities to acknowledge their contribution. Give them credit where credit is due. Very, very important, because Jesus encouraged us to bear each other's burdens. Why? To fulfill the law of Christ. And his law says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and your neighbor as yourself. When you consider this statement, you understand why Jesus would ask us to bear each other's burden. By doing so, you are showing the love of God by loving your neighbor. Some practical ways that we can bear one another's burdens. One, financial. Especially during this COVID time, seeing how hard the women work, we can help somebody else by buying groceries for them. We see some persons struggling. We're talking about women being the ones to lose their jobs more readily than men. Men should be there to offer the financial support, and even to other families by helping to pay some bills maybe, right? Secondly, spiritual burdens. Be willing to pray for and with people. Call someone and let them share their heart with you and just listen to what they have to say. So men, we can be there for our women to help them as they go through. Pray for them and pray with them. And of course, family burdens. Schedule a walk with a friend. Give them space of rest and someone to talk to. Offer yourself to help with some children, maybe not even your own, but somebody else's children. And this will help them as they work through this whole burden bearing aspect. Some action items, and I tried not to be too long because I want us to talk. Some action items as we women try to manage our burdens, and each one will depend on your personal situation, your context, and your preference. One, adapt your attitude. Keep your thoughts positive. Research shows that persons who are positive generally have better outcomes in life. Your thoughts drive your feelings drive your behavior. Be aware of negative or distortional thinking and replace these with positive, realistic thoughts. Acknowledge your feelings, positive, negative, and neutral. They are all valid and they need to be expressed. Lower your expectation. Perfection does not exist. And it is okay if you are not as productive as you think you should be. As women, we tend to push ourselves. Be okay with just doing your best with the resources that you have. And of course, practice self-compassion. So I might make a mistake, but remind yourself that you are human and humans do make mistakes. Another thing I'm encouraging us as women to do is engage in self-care. Establish boundaries so you are not taking on the extra burden. We spoke about reproductive burdens, productive, community. Where can you draw the line so that you are not doing too much? Prioritize a relaxation or self-care activity as you are able. Taking care of yourself will help you function best in the different roles that you have. And of course, participate in counseling if desired and available. Even in this COVID time, you can do teletherapy or telecounseling, meaning online. So where you feel as if you are becoming overwhelmed, engage in self-care, take care of yourself, seek counseling if you can. Become more organized. Create a structured schedule. Establish dedicated spaces for certain activities. For example, we're working from home now a lot more than before. Separate your workspace from your play space, and it helps you to have control over how you feel, and you're not feeling overwhelmed by just being at work all the time. Of course, delegate some tasks to others with clear expectations, and we'll talk a little bit more about delegating. I'll tell you who to delegate some of those tasks to. Stay connected. Seek help from others to help you to share the load. Please ask for help. Very, very important. Use your support system. No man is an island, no man stands alone. We were created for relationships and to operate in communities. So draw support from family, friends, colleagues, etc. Right? Please pay attention to those who are more vulnerable. So some women may be in a more vulnerable position than others. Connect with each other. When I mentioned about become more organized, one of the things that I had said was to assign work to other people. Involve your spouse and your children. Some men are not so readily willing to involve themselves, so invite them to be a part of the process, right? Involve your spouse and your children, assign jobs to your children, plan what you're doing, and have them be a part of it. And when they help you to plan it, it makes it so much easier. So my husband and I are at home together for the most part now because of our ages where we are at in our life. And over the years, my husband has always been the one to help. He helps in the kitchen, he helps with the children. I remember once I couldn't go on a particular journey. There was some outing when his office was going out and I had something else to do. And incidentally, we have 3 girls, no boys. And he went with the 3 of them alone. And I was surprised. They went to some beach place. He helped them wash their hair and he came back home with everybody here just combing one. It just scrape up and it tie up, but he combed their hair. So he did his part. And it is that kind of involvement which will help to reduce the burden. Now he's here, we easily share what we have to do. So while I am doing one thing, he might be in the kitchen, cutting up vegetables, doing something else. It makes life so much easier. So involve your spouses, involve your children. And when you sit down and plan it together, then it doesn't come across as if you are instructing them to do it. And everybody ends up feeling better, right? So my last slide says, remember that Jesus is a great burden bearer. It therefore means we can cast all our care on him because he cares for us. And I'm gonna stop there and open the floor for your comments, your questions, so we can talk on this.
Excellent. Let me see. I'm getting a fee. Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Morrison. I think your presentation is well received.
Bless God.
And, you know, we really appreciate it. I want to just jump right into, you know, we have quite a number of ladies here. And I want them to respond to, you know, your declaration that there is, in fact, women are carrying, in fact, a great burden. You know, what are your experiences? Are your experiences aligned with what Mrs. Morrison is saying? Do you, are there women in the conversation or women that you know that feel a sense of doing more than your fair share of work, even when the work is not being recognized? Is that your reality? And of course, this is an open conversation. If you want to share and I don't get to you, can use the raise hand feature. But I will, you know, just pull a few people just to, you know, pick your thoughts as I usually do, so that it benefits me as well, to understand where people are at. Lady Mel, I don't know if you're hearing us still, you know, but I know that you are one of those persons who are carrying multiple, you know, roles, you know, in your life. How is that burden for you, Sherry-Ann? The same. I know that you also are, you know, carrying that multiple role, and of course, Lady Shan, you're doing the same. You are carrying that multiple role. You know, what are your feelings on this? Are women, first of all, the burden bearers that we have laid on their shoulders? Are you really the burden bearers? And if so, and as well, are you carrying a disproportionate share of burden, you know, in terms of working and family and etc. So let me start. Lady Sherry-Ann, let me start with you. If you're still hearing me. All right, going once. All right, don't see the mic shifting. Lady Mel, if you are here. All right, I see a mic opening. Lady Mel.
Good night, everyone. Kind of a little bit stuffy, but I'm sure that everyone is hearing me.
I must say that a burden of illness tonight.
I must say that I really enjoyed the presentation. It was very informative, and you know, one of the things that I heard she said, you know, the self-care. I think that is one of the things that is affecting me, because I'm always like going, never taking a break. And right now, it's like I'm having an effect because I actually get sick right now. So it's like I'm always running, work. I have a little child here to take care of, also have housework to be done.
And I hear the little one.
Right. So, and you know, and the good
yes, Melissa, you are muted.
She probably went
right.
To one, yes.
It's just that I have this girl beside of me and she just need a little attention, but just kind of bear with me.
Right. So I think it is applicable to you, Lady Mel, and I'm wondering, you know, that expectation that you probably have. Would you say that you have, you know, that an unusually high level of expectation? You have to take care of the house, you have to take care of the children. The same for Sherry-Ann as well, the same for Shan. You know, that expectation of having to do it all, do you feel like you have that sense of high expectation, probably even higher than normal expectation? Lady Mel, and don't worry, we know that we know that you're taking care of baby, but it's all right because it's a family group.
Yes.
Right. Anybody else? Sherry-Ann, I see you're back on the, you know, you want to share your experience. Lady Mel, I see. All
right, just give me a second, so I move on to somebody else. I'm just gonna give her
no problem at all. Lady Chantel, if you're hearing, do you have that high expectation in terms of doing it all? You know, taking care of the kids and working and carrying all that burden?
Yeah, definitely, sir. Definitely.
Would you say
really,
it is higher than, because, Mrs. Morrison did say that we probably should, not try to be the perfectionist, not try to,
Yes.
yeah, do you think that you have that challenge?
well, I've learned. Before children, I was that person, a little neat freak, and get fussy about this being out of place and that being out of place. But having two toddlers, I got over that and just let it be until the little neat freak aspect of me come in, and then I straighten up. I just let them be. I don't stress myself about every little thing. I just let them be children, and then I be the peer, just guide them and clean up after and do the work. So I don't really stress about that. I just really take it easy. Yeah.
Okay. I see Lady Raffian in the conversation says that sometimes she feels breathless. As a mother with children at home, that's my heart goes out. She feels breathless sometimes. So it does appear that there is at least for the women who are, and I don't know if anybody else wants to share your experience as a female, in this society, if you're carrying a disproportionate burden of the workload. If you are having that experience. But I think the consensus here is that is a challenge, and that is something that we need to reflect on and be intentional towards responding to.
Pastor Smith, if I might just comment.
Sure.
One of the things I think that drive us as women is that we are naturally nurturers.
Right.
Naturally nurturers. And so we want to take care.
Yes.
We want to look after. And if we're not careful, we stretch ourselves until the burden becomes almost unbearable.
Yes.
So as I can't remember who spoke a while ago, said now that she has children, she has learned to step back a little bit.
Yeah, that's right, Chantel.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. It's really important that we stop and realize that some things don't have to be a particular way.
Yes.
Right? Try to focus on the things that are critical.
Yes.
The things that are of priority.
Yes. So, which is a useful segue, because, I want to get out of the conversation, importantly for us there at Agape as well, how as a church, we can provide, because, theologically, as you pointed out, Jesus has come. And so there is an expectation that at least within the communities of the church, that there's a growing, a restoration of the model of, what the church community should be, where the burden is not so disproportionate. So I perceive that a part of the solution, of course, the community solution that is really at the root of it is required, where we restore again what is the role of the male in general, and when they begin to take up their role more and more, then we're going to also be able to to support the women. And from the conversation that we had, we realized that there might need to be a readjusting of that role, because if we're going to need and should be willing to support our women in the aspects of care that they may provide, we might have to begin to see our role slightly different as well. So I'm not starting first of all from a community level before we come back to the individual, what as individual women, you should do in light of the present state. Sir Andrew, I see you're here as well, and you are part of the conversation regarding, of course, the role of the male, and in trying to focus on how the church can work to correct the imbalance. How can we support the women? So I believe that it is important to start by getting the men again, clearly their role and restore their place in the order of things, so that they know once they are restored, then the burden on the women become less. And then we move towards trying to educate the women, as they are saying that, should not be so, need to pace themselves in light of the current situation and try to adjust in a way that is healthy. Because I don't think that some of our women are dealing with it in a very healthy way. The anxiety, is there, they want to be here for the schooling, but they also need to work, and they want to maintain their spiritual lives. And it kind of shows in the kind of a disciple that we may end up getting with women who are just too out of it to really maybe even start to resent God in the process.
And that happens. And
that
happens.
Does happen, doesn't it?
As I listened to you, something else came to me.
Yes.
The man is the head.
Yes.
And we're talking about the home, and we're talking about the church.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I think we misinterpret what headship means, what leadership means. And that man should be there to provide that covering and care for the women. So as the man loves his wife, as Christ loves the church in that sacrificial way, he, I think, would place himself to take on more of the burdens, more of those burdens, so that she can be more of what God wants her to be.
That's so. But if we're picking up from last conversation, we probably have to get them in the church first, and then get them into their role.
Well, there you are.
Lady Sherian, I see your hand up.
All right, so I'm traveling over from work.
Oh, okay. Oh, I understand. Oh, so okay, I understand now. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry about that. Sherian, please open back your mic. I accidentally. Yes, you're right. Okay. You're traveling over, right?
Right. So as soon as you call them and I open the mic to speak, I realized that my internet went.
Okay, no problem at all. No, I just wanted to gauge again if you are having this similar experience as Mrs. Morse said, in terms of feeling a sense of carrying a disproportionate amount of the burden of family, etc.
Okay, so personally speaking, and I can speak for me, I can speak for others in terms of observation. But I remember really quickly, let me just make this point. I remember one of my friends, I took her in, I really, took note of what her life was like. She's married with 2 kids, and, the cycle of her cycle was, Sunday church, and, of course, that's dinner and everything. Monday to Friday, that's work. When she comes in the evenings, it's cooking dinner for the family. On Saturday, normally people would kind of do things for fun on Saturday. That was not her story. It was getting up early, working, from morning till a certain time. Then, there's dinner to put on, and then preparation for Sunday, and it's a constant cycle. And that's not just for her, it's for so many people.
Yes.
And one way we can talk about, imbalance, but one way to practically help a person like that is, if it is a case where she's in a relationship, then of course the man can help. The man can, if he reaches in before her, he can start the dinner or something.
There you go.
And at the end of the day, it's not just about, oh, you're the woman, you're expected to do this. And that has to go. That mentality has to go, because then as a team, you're expected to achieve things together. And so that's one of the things I had to say. The next thing is, for me personally, based on my situation, to be honest, I've kind of shifted in a number of things in my life of recent times. Since my separation and divorce, I have moved back with my family. So the burden of that as a wife, you have to provide like that. Yeah, to be honest, that's not my situation at this time, and I'm really grateful for that. But of course, you know, in a family where, you know, you're expected to chip in and do what you need to do, of course, clearly. But you know, unfortunately for many women, I can say that, you know, it's not so. One of the things I think should be another way of, you know, practically assisting in a situation, because, you know, especially for those in a marriage, or, you know, you as a couple need to spend time together, you know, with and without the kids. And one way I would suggest for anybody, the same way you budget for bills, I would suggest that people, as best as they can and they're able to, should budget for assistance. Yeah, getting someone to come in even for a day, you know, doing some of this heavy work, doing the cleaning, you know, if they can iron and have those clothes put down for the rest of the week, because it makes no sense to have one person or even both persons tired to the point where they have no use for themselves and their family. So that's just, you know, it's more than just saying, oh, you know, but being practical about it, you know, being intentional about easing the burden.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah, I want to pick up on that. So I'm gonna want to go two ways here before, and I really want to get this. So there are a group of women, of course, who are, you know, at the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder, right? And these women, you know, of course, you know, the absentee male, and this is the scenario. What and how can we, you know, what can we suggest to these women, right, in order, you know, in the current reality for them to be able to cope, right? So there's so this is the first scenario. Then I'm going to go to the scenario where the male is, because I need to find out, because that, you know, that domestic role is kind of is rolling on the tongue very easy, but I need to come back to it. But let's start with women, you know, having the children, you know, having to find ways to get the food because this man is non-existent or whatever. What are their best strategies for coping with that unusual burden? Let me start with you know, Mrs. Morrison, your thoughts, and then anybody else who may want to share their experience of how they are coping in that way.
I think what jumps out at me right now is community. If they can pool together somehow, I think what happens, why we end up in situations that continue, is maybe pride.
Yes.
If we can come together and do things in a communal kind of way and share, even some of what is it Sharon that spoke a while ago?
Right.
One person to help the other. Because say we're all low-income persons, or we run our own individual business, so to speak. One day when I'm not so busy, could I come over and help you with your children so that you can get to go do something else? So in that way, we share the burden, so we can at least breathe a little bit.
Yes.
So I think if we can even begin there.
Yes. That's profound, because you know, the fact that you mentioned pride, and I'm just thinking of how culture has come about, where even women who are living, you know, just tend to just feel like they're in that role alone, and
alone,
you know,
yes,
and just having to go through it alone. There's not that, you know, of course we are children of, you know, of Africans. There were that village kind of a mentality where women,
that's how it used to be.
But of course society has shifted, and my mind is now going now to say, well, all right, well, at least church is a community. Does the church need to begin to restore church as a community and try to see if they can facilitate women together, you know, who are in this group, who can bond themselves together to support each other. So I think that's an important thing that I want to make note of. Lady Michelle, I see your hand up.
Basically, what I was about to ask, and she kind of answered, Miss Morrison answered, because I was checking on the fact that the statements were made about the innate laziness of men. as we Jamaicans have already been experiencing,
Coming back to that in
women
a
have been
minute.
experiencing. Have been experiencing. It's a thought culture. It's some of it is strongly a thought culture, because your mother would send the boys to go play,
Yes,
or to
can you imagine?
and then the girl would then be roped into, okay, you need to go learn to cook, you need to learn how to wash, you need to learn how to iron, and the men are given the opportunity sometimes to go and have an education separate and apart from the girl, who might be said, okay, the best thing you better go find a husband, because you're going to be like a helper to him, find a good man, and that's a thought culture.
Right.
One of the things I Miss Morrison and Sir Smith hit the nail is about the community. Coming from my mom and my fathers are from the country, from the rural area, right? And how they were brought up, that community still came to them. So we still have that, when Christmas time, Mr. John have to have meat, or Miss Mary have banana, everybody have to eat something for
There
Christmas.
you go.
That
Yes.
community flavor is missing today. So then now where it comes back now is it is in the owners of the church.
Yes.
Because we need to be frank with it. We have a lot of programs that are being shelved. The outreach programs are being shelved because of Corona. You understand that? But you are online. You can know when sister so-and-so, boy, I'm tired, You can say, okay, then, give me a day when you think you can accommodate me, so I can, at least help you with some of the iron. It's my day off today. I might be tired. Build that community again.
Yeah.
Build to the part where we support each other, because as I said, iron sharpeneth iron. And right about now, we have to be very frank. It is more needed, helping you to shoulder your burden as well as me shouldering mine.
Yeah.
That is what is needed now.
Yeah, and I mean, I can imagine, of course, having the children, and I'm just, remembering one particular scenario, where a mom just needs a day to breathe, just need a time away from the children. But again, in our society, our individualistic society, where we are kind of own, and there's no breaks. So it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with school, and then on Saturday, and there's no space for mom to breathe, to do self-care, this concept. But if in a communal setting, of course, somebody say, all right, well, all the kids can come with me. Stay with me, for the day, or do a sleepover. Everybody does, with one. So one mom has them for a day, just to give the other mom. So so that community concept is really something, Mrs. Morrison, that I think
we have to return. We have to return to that.
Yeah.
We are supposed to have improved our society, advanced, but we're going in reverse.
Yeah, there are some areas that we're definitely just going in reverse, isn't it? I want to make mention of this before, but so that's one category. The women, lower socioeconomic, disconnected from the male. But then of course there's this other scenario where the male is present, but the truth is, back to the whole how we're cultured. It's going to take a little bit of a reworking to get that mindset, that domesticated mindset.
Yes.
And I know that Sir Andrew is here and he's a family man. I wonder what is his experience. Sir Andrew, if you're hearing me, share what your experience that the male in the house and the whole domestication. I perceive that, and I see in American culture, for example, where they somehow adopted, because I can see male in the background doing the grilling, typical white male, or even the African American male who are certain, employed and stuff. Some of their cultures seem to have adopted a domesticated role for the male. They might not be in the kitchen, but they are in the backyard and they're doing their grilling. So they're contributing to the food and they're there with the family. I don't know that we have a culture, a male domesticated culture as yet. Whereas even when the males are at home, it is really, they're disconnected.
They're not involved.
And as well, to probably balance the equation, sometimes, the ego gets bruised because you're there and the women don't want you to come out of the way because you can't, or you're worthless, are you? And so the negative language, the complaining, of course, they're over their burden and the complaining. you know, and the men just want to tune all of that out because, again, you know, there's a certain gender-related issue related to the caveman mentality. They just want some peace and quiet. So, Sir Andrew, how are you doing the what you call it now, the male domesticated role? If you are doing that any at all, let me see if you're still hearing me.
He's there.
Yes, you're processing.
Night to everyone.
Yes,
I also hoping to take a back seat because I
no, well, we don't.
I cannot speak based on experience. So I was quite comfortable.
Well, we just bring you in just for the little piece, just for the man part, because
but well, I think I'm probably different from the average guy. My wife will tell you. I do everything in the house. All right. I as a matter of fact, I can say for the last probably maybe about 3 months, well, certainly from school has gone on online. All right. I don't think well, unless she chooses to. Sometimes she chooses to because she figure what she needs, whatever. But she has not touched a piece of laundry. All right, because she has a problem with her hand, where sometimes it's just too strenuous. So I have taken over full responsibility for that area. Yes. From ever since we got married until now.
Wonderful.
I've done the ironing. So I get up like on 4:35 on a Saturday morning to iron, and we have 2 children for school and work the following week. So that has been my responsibility. Right. Yeah. For when it comes down to cooking, we usually share that, but I usually do it on a Saturday and a Sunday. We both do that aspect of it. So I usually do most. I assist. Sunday, there are sometimes when I just like, okay, this I'm like, well, I'm not really in the mood. Right. All right. I will do for it. Take like for example, a refrigerator in the bathroom. So I will do the cleaning, and then she will maintain it for the next few days or week until it's time for it to be cleaned again. Because she will tell that her idea of cleaning the fridge is for to take out the things and wipe out and stuff. My idea is to take out everything and get the hose and wash it out and everything like that sort. So she's not gonna do that kind of strenuous stuff. All right, so I think we're assisting with the domestic stuff is concerned, and then with the kids. I mean, my children, I wash their hair. I can try the bump. I try the bump it sometimes.
I need to come to yours. Very well, Mr. Andrew. I'm proud of you.
I need to come to
yours. I'm proud of you, Andrew, man. I'm proud of you.
Excellent, Andrew.
Wow.
And it comes like when our kids growing up.
Give you a hand for that. I love that.
So when as a kid growing up, I was I'm like 7. I'm number 6 of 7. But my younger brother, others are way older than us. The younger brothers, like just 2 of us basically, and I normally get the bulk of the work and you get the easier part. So we have to clean the veranda. You know, back here, you have to get brushed to go on your knee and shine and stuff like that.
I know that's so only too well.
I get the hard part. I wash the dishes, he just rinse them. So I usually get the hard parts. I've been grooming in doing that kind of stuff. So where the domestic side for me, as I said, I don't think my wife have any complaints.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Right, but as you alluded to it, it's that you feel that you are probably the odd man out in that particular regard.
Yeah. And there are others that do it, but it's
sure,
not the majority.
Course, but it's not the majority.
Part of the problem, do you see? And I was thinking, I don't remember the name.
Morrison, yeah.
And I'm wondering, because a lot of even though the females are saying they are overburdened and stuff, but then I'm thinking, how many of the females now, maybe not the young one, the more elderly ones, or many of our young men, their sons were groomed not to assume certain domestic responsibilities.
It's a good question, and you are correct.
I was just
because we as women are responsible for the way a lot of the young men behave. And somebody who spoke earlier, it could have been Sherry, and I'm not sure, said, yes, the girls are told to go and decide to do. The boys are told to go and play. So a boy gets up out of his bed and the mother doesn't say to him, go make your bed, show him how to do it. She say, go play. So, and as a result, now you have a situation where you, Andrew, you do what you do, but other guys look at you as though something is wrong with you.
Right.
And they call you soft.
Right.
So the responsibility is ours. We have created, well, I don't even know. I think it's a cycle. It's a whole cycle. Because the patriarchal society has caused women to view themselves a certain way. And so some of the older women have taken on that role and decided that the boys must not do certain things.
Right.
It's a woman's thing.
Right.
So in our minds, we have assumed that role and we believe it is to go right down the generation.
Right. So in other words, even in the same single female-headed home with the children, those matriarchal females still, exclude the boys from those roles. And so the cycle continues and it's perpetuated. Excellent point indeed. So again, my view still is, again, we don't know what, I guess we know where the world is going, but within the church community, again, so there is clearly a need for re-socialization, a restoration again of the biblical model that, of course, will involve, again, allowing women to know that this is the direction that they need to take with their boys. Because I've been hearing, of course, this narrative for a little while now about, how boys are being told to do this and girls are being told to do that differently. But I'm not clear yet as to how intentional we are, whether on a social level or even on a church leadership level, in reversing that culture so that at least there's a community that models a different way to raise boys. To raise boys in a way that learns to share the burden, as you alluded to in your presentation. So I think we also, I also need to process that as well, a way where we can get the culture that church, flourishing church coming up. This is at Agape here, where we can lay the foundation for, parenting in a way that, restores God's model in the home as well. Lady Mel, I see your hand up, and I think Sherry, and your hand was up a while ago as well. So let's see if we can just take a few comments to include. Lady Mel, I see your hand. Go right ahead.
All right, I'm just adding just a few regarding our boys. Just speaking about a friend of mine. She has been married for a number of years now, and she's in the relationship, and apparently she have 3 kids, right? And she had been burdened. Not saying that the husband needs to help her, but because of the way he was brought up, and it just came up a while ago, I was just about to say it, but he actually said it before. He was brought up in a home with a mother and father and sisters, and he's always going outside to play, and his sister would always be in the house cleaning and doing all the work. So he hasn't ever been brought up how to wash his clothes, how to cook food, and how to do any form of domestic work. So right now the wife is in the relationship. She's burdened with the kids and everything because all you do is just sit down, watch the football, watch the basketball and stuff, and then wait on the wife to put on the pot because he cannot cook, he cannot do certain things. And I think it's a way, as parents, I think we need to train the boys, kind of call them and show them how to wash the clothes, kind of teach them how to do and stuff like that. So when you're in the marriage, because it has to be a partner thing, you have to work together as a team.
Partnership,
get a relationship to work, you have to work together as a team. So you kind of share the work. So if wife is doing something, you can say, okay, then wife is doing this, she's doing the laundry, I'm going to put on the food then. All right, wife is not going to come home until about 9 o'clock. So guess what? I reach home before her, so I'm going to put on the food until she come home. So I think most of it that's causing the problem right now, the whole society, because most of our boys are not really trained up to do the domestic work. All the girls always doing this. We're always cleaning, we're always washing, we're always cooking, we're doing all of that. And then when we go into the relationship, sometimes we have problems because sometimes the man can't do nothing.
Right. Well,
I think, the onus is really on us, which is the mother, the parents, we need to train our children, train both of them. You can't really pressure the girl to do certain things, train your son how to do certain stuff. So when he should get into a relationship or into a marriage, at least he can help in some form of way. And I think that is what is causing the problem, because most of our boys are not really trained to do this domestic work.
And I do have a burden for the men in terms of, in this regard, and one of the things that I wanted to add in that conversation, because to start raising the boys, of course, that's starting with kids, but of course there are men now who are already in the relationship, they're already in the family, they're already, and some of them, in fact, to give credit, are in fact making an effort. They're probably not working, and then they find themselves at home, and boy, trying to figure out what the on and off button is for the machine. It's probably, you can just imagine, it's like fish out of water, does not socialize in that way. And worse, being in that role, it's not just that they are not socialized in that way, but the women are not socialized to accept them in that way.
To have them, yes.
So then when they are there is in fact this other negative role where the women again make them uncomfortable. For being this way. So it's not an invitation, honey, let's see if we can do this together, and let me show you how this is done, and I know you really want to help me, so let me be there. But as soon as they show up in the kitchen, come out of the kitchen, man, you can't, you can't do nothing or whatever. So another role, as far as these women are concerned who are bearing that extra burden again, is to allow help, accept help. Be okay to accept help. Be okay to accept. It doesn't have to look like exactly how you like to do it, because
so you don't have to be perfect.
That's where, right?
That's where being perfect come in.
Right. So it doesn't have to look like exactly how you always like it to be.
Yeah.
And the bed is not spread in the same way that you like it. And so, of course, the fault finding and your baffan and your this and your that. And then, of course, the affirmation is, when it comes to respect, that word, that our word means a lot more for men than it does for women. It's taken a whole new meaning. So if you can't affirm you're a male, he's going to find somewhere else where he can feel affirmed, even if it is in front of the TV with a cowboy and the Indian or whatever. So that's probably another way where women can, create a space where they can get support in the home. So anyone else in commenting, I think we went, this conversation was well worth it, and I think that we have some important takeaway that we can, as women. Particularly if you're here and you're feeling a disproportionate burden, please go back and look at this recording so that you can see some of the pointers that Mrs. Morrison invites you to consider in trying to relieve yourself of that extra burden. Because this is the reality. There is a problem with men, and so while it's going to take probably another generation even within the church to correct some of those things, but while that is going on, you can't take on the world and you need to find strategies to cope. I see a hand up from Gamit, and I think that word is, I don't know if when you open the mic, just say your name so that it is clear to us as well, and please share.
Blessings, everyone. It's Gamita. Gamita, you're correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I would like to put my 2 cents to this conversation. Growing up, Michelle is my sister.
Okay.
Growing up, we were taught to do certain things as girls.
Yes.
The boys were taught to do certain things as boys.
Yes.
But also, they were taught to clean the house, wash their clothes, cook the food.
Oh, the boys in your circle were taught to do those things as well. Okay.
Yes, but though they were taught because of their peers.
Yes.
So peer pressure is a part of things that change.
Yes. Yes, that's an important addition to note, right? In terms of male to male interaction, so you may have actually in fact learned, but then when you go to school or when you go on a job, you are probably ridiculed and shy away or retract from what you know is the right thing to do as far as your spouse is concerned. That's an important contribution, Gamita. Thank you. All right. Is there any additional points, comments that anyone wants to make before we close out our conversation for tonight? Sherry, and I see your microphone is open.
Yes. So I wanted to say something before, but the conversation got really good, and a lot of the points that went across, I didn't really need to say anything much. Yes. But I guess right now one of the things that we can do. My son is 5, and what I try to do, when there are children, they have this exuberance that is real. And, the best thing to do is to actually capitalize on that as best as we can. So while they're excited and want to see what you're doing, and they want to help you mix and stir and do everything, it's best for you to include them in that time. Man. And don't tell them you're getting in my way. Don't run them out to the kitchen. There, right now, when I'm scrubbing the bathroom, my son comes, Mommy, can I do it? And he's so excited, and I'm just like, okay. And I make sure I give him dinner, and he scrubs too, and he's like, Mommy, he's so excited. I try to really, help him with that, and even put a little extra excitement to make him feel really accomplished. Yeah. And the reason for that is that I really want him to learn. I have heard persons say, for marriage or relationship, but just, at some point, I'm sure even before the marriage and whatever, probably he's going to be living on his own at some point before, to not be starving or just feeding on fast food because he can't cook, or have a dirty house because he can't clean, stuff like that. So, the point has been brought across for those who are actually, outside of the youthful exuberant stage, for those who are, adults now and everything. One of the things I can say for the men, Andrew, thumbs up to you. And for any other, I'm not sure if any.
Lost that.
She's muted.
Right. You're
okay,
mute,
so open
back.
that.
See, your mic is back up.
I'm here.
Yes.
All right. So I'm based on the names, it seems like the only other male that's here is Pastor Smith. But what I would, like to say is that for men, one of the things they can, appreciate, and for the women who can acknowledge it and actually give some affirmation to the man's effort, when he comes in to try to help. And I know sometimes it might be a case where you probably blatantly tell him, no, you slow me up, you can't do it good, it's not right, or whatever. Sometimes we don't even say anything. We just roll our eyes, and we're just kind of, our attitude alone is not encouraging to the man.
Yes.
It speaks very loudly. And as a man, I'm sure he's not encouraged to really come back around because he feels like he's not doing something right. And, our actions are just there screaming at him. So let's be a lot more patient,
yes.
With him. And again, with our kids, and not just boys, by the way, even the girls. And for another point I want to bring across to, for persons with multiple kids, and, you have the youngest child that you probably, give a lot of exceptions because they're young, and, you have the older kids in the kitchen, and you have the older kids doing all the chores, and the younger kids don't really know what to do because they're out playing and whatnot. When they're older, they can't do anything. Let us try to make it as even as possible. If we're baking, call them in the kitchen. Let them, mix the flour, do stuff like that. So that's just my point.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to express my appreciation to you, Mrs. Morrison, for sharing with us. Your insights are invaluable, and we want to. We have grown from your words, and I want to thank everyone else for participating in and sharing in this conversation. And And we look forward to additional conversations to come. So please do open your mics, everyone, and make somebody feel good to have been a part of this conversation. Greet somebody. You know, as we say, good evening to everyone. This conversation again is recorded. It will be on our website, agapeapostolic.info, and on our social media pages. And we look forward to additional conversations. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks for having me. It was a good night. I enjoyed being
here. Good night,
here.
everyone.
Morrison.
Appreciate it.
Andrew, blessings.
Yeah, congrats, Andrew. You're doing a great job.
Congrats, Andrew.
No, Andrew need the medal. We need to go work up the medal for Andrew right there.
Welcome to my sister Gamita. Thanks for coming.
I'm going to figure out how to turn on that machine. That's my role right now. I need to go and figure out how to turn on that machine. That's right.
Come with a manual. Good conversation. Very good evening.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Take care, folks. Good.
Okay, bye-bye.